Welcome to the planning commission meeting. To note for roll call, we have all commissioners attendance except for Olivia Moe, with Brian online. We are going to go ahead and move item number 5, selection of the chair and vice chair, up to the first item. So I'm looking for a motion or nomination for chair of the planning commission.
So, Anna, would you like to? One of the, be the chair?
Sure.
So, make a motion. Yeah, I'll make a motion that Anna be the chair, or Commissioner Thiel be the chair. Second.
Okay, second.
All in favor, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Hi.
Okay,
Okay.
you want to take over and look for a vice chair?
Okay. Oh, I got the agenda too. Hey, am I correct? Okay, do we have a motion for vice chair?
Do it. No? Will you guys like to do it? I'll do it. Okay, I'll make a motion to Matlock, right? Right. Make a motion for Commissioner Matlock to be the vice chair. Second. All those in favor?
Hi.
Aye.
Hi.
Okay, great. All right, so I guess we did call to order, but we didn't take roll call, right?
I said roll call.
Okay,
so
we're
we're
good.
good there.
Okay, perfect. So now we're looking to number 2 on the agenda, approval of minutes from November 15th, 2023 and January 3rd of 2024. Does anyone have anything that they need changed or questions? Otherwise, we're looking for a motion for approval.
I have a question. I might misunderstand this. Ryan Elward is listed as attending on the 15th of November, is that right? And then Brian Fitzgibbon on.
Yeah.
January 3rd. Do I have
Yeah.
those names?
Stephen, this is Brian. My former name was Allward, and then I was married in October of 2022 and legally changed my name to Fitzgibbon. And
Okay.
that has slowly made its way to,
I was thinking that maybe I had it wrong, so it's fine.
yeah, no, it's just, we're just catching up with time.
Perfect. Is there anything else?
Make a motion to approve the minutes.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Now we will move on to the opportunity for public comment on non-agenda items. Do we have anybody online?
We no longer take online public comment. We've been, I sent you guys an email, as you know, we've had a lot of issues in the recent area with some Zoom meetings, and so while we're figuring out security, we have changed our agenda to note people can submit via writing or person for comments, they can still attend, but we're no longer taking comments online.
Perfect, thank you. And do you want anything on the agenda?
No, I was just here to listen to the process of how you're gonna approve this development to be able to follow the alley. That's complex, I just wanted to listen to the process.
Sure.
Yeah.
Awesome, well, thank you for attending. Okay, I will close the opportunity for public comment as there's no one wanting to participate in that. And now we'll move on to 4. Does staff want to give us the introduction for the public hearing recommendation for the development agreement?
Yeah, so do we have the applicants online?
She just showed up.
Okay. So online we have Wendy Miller, and Wendy Miller is the previous owner of the Sirius Sports Facility. So it's also referred to as the Swan Valley Athletic Center. And Wendy has developed that over the course of the last few years. And the original development agreement for this project dates back to 2016. So if you're not familiar with the development agreement is a contractual agreement between a developer and the city that enables review of a project in an alternative path rather than under strict conformance to the city's development standards. It allows consideration of essentially a little bit of horse trading. So allowing something that maybe doesn't fit strictly under the standard, but in demonstrating that there's public benefit in doing so. So it goes through the same process that any code amendment would go through. It has to go before the public, with a public hearing, get a recommendation by the planning commission, and then go up to city council to eventually take action. So what the original development agreement in this case authorized was to phase the project. So the project, as you see it today, is the first phase. And that first phase is included the ball fields, and the parking. And what the original development agreement authorized was to do a second phase later on when sewer was available. So they couldn't build a building at that point because the city's sewer regulations require connection to sewer, and sewer wasn't available. So that development agreement allowed them to pursue the first phase ahead of sewer, subject to using some porta potties, with the understanding that a second phase was coming, at which point a building would be built that would contain indoor sports courts and restrooms. There were some other things that were pushed off to the second phase, certain frontage improvements. And then the development agreement also allowed things like an expanded building height to accommodate the type of building necessary for basketball courts. It's a little taller than what you could get with a strict height limit. There were a number of amendments that were provided to that original development agreement. So the big factor is the city and the residents of that area formed a utility local improvement district to extend sewer to serve that area. And so when that happened, the provision in the original development agreement that the applicant would construct the sewer line to serve their development became irrelevant. So a first amendment was prepared that enabled the second phase of the development to simply be served by a public sewer rather than the developer providing that as a private sewer extension. Later on, there was a second amendment provided to that back in 2021. And I was just reflecting that it was taking longer for the development of that ULID than anticipated. And so what that second amendment did is it simply pushed back the time frame to complete the sewer, and therefore pushed back the time frame that the developer had to complete the phase 2 improvements. So what's happened since is Wendy Miller has sold the project to Peak View LLC, a new owner. And I don't know if Thomas has joined us, but Thomas Faulkner is representing Peak View LLC as the new owner. And so the purpose of this new development agreement is, instead of just assigning a development agreement that we already had 2 amendments to, it was a lot cleaner to create a new development agreement with the new owner. And essentially just provide the same obligations under the original development agreement and its amendments to the new owner. So that new development agreement has got 3 components. The first component is that the new owner is obligated to complete the phase 1 improvements or corrections necessary to complete that project as per the approved plans. So there's still a number of outstanding items that need to be corrected: incomplete landscaping, some fencing issues, just various small improvements that need to be completed. So that's been put in as a phase 1 item that the developer has until the end of March to complete. A phase 1A is also provided, and that phase 1A is what's necessary to complete the project to make it consistent with code. If phase 1 were its own standalone project that didn't ever have a phase 2. So the code requires restrooms for public commercial buildings. So phase 1A says that if you're not going to complete a new full-size building with basketball courts, you have to at least construct a restroom building so that you're not permanently using porta potties. The other provision of that is that there are certain frontage improvements that were pushed to phase 2, street frontage improvements, sidewalk, drainage improvements, and so forth, along Bendigo Boulevard. So if phase 2 doesn't happen, to make it consistent with what would be required under the code, the developer would have to then complete this frontage. Also undergrounding power lines. Phase 2 then is largely the same as what was originally proposed in the original development of phase 2. So that's the building, completing additional parking, and completing the remaining landscaping project. So that's in a nutshell what is provided in this new development agreement. Staff recommend approval of this. It is a good project, and we do hope that the applicant is able to move forward all the way through phase 2.
Okay, I'll bring it back to commissioners for a moment. Do you have any questions or comments for staff?
Thank you for the explanation.
Yeah,
Okay,
that was,
so-
oh, sorry, that was helpful. I did just have one quick question about the, I think it's in part C, part C, number 1, number F, it's about parking. There's a bunch of math listed out, and when I was reading through this, I just could not make sense of that math for parking spaces. It says that there's a parking requirement of 72 parking spaces, and then it talks about the number of players, 15 times 2, 2 teams, and then 12 courts. And then it says 90 parking spaces, and then it says the total number of parking spaces is 140. I just got lost in in that. And maybe there's already like an existing number of parking spaces from phase 1 that is roped into that number. But does anyone know what the actual parking space requirement for this agreement is?
Yeah, so that is correct, that the 90 spaces is what's required for the phase 2 improvements, so the building. So that's just to accommodate what's being added for the parking demand, just for the phase 2 use. And
Okay,
the
so-
140 is the total of phase 1 and phase 2. So what's existing plus what's being added.
Okay, so the 72, is that what's already there? That still doesn't add up to 140.
Well, I'm not taking the credit for that.
So, but the end result will be 140 parking spaces. Is that accurate? Or does that number need to be updated?
I will check that. I don't have the site plan.
The site plan does show 140, because I counted, because I was like,
Okay.
there's like so bad there, but if that's what the code is,
Yeah.
it might be something we need.
Well, the code wasn't specific, so that's why this was also included in the development agreement. So there wasn't a specific standard for like a baseball field or a basketball court. So at the time that this was developed, the city looked at what other jurisdictions did and based the standard on kind of an average of that, and that's what got placed into the development agreement.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
And we'll bring it back to commission to talk about as well. Are there any other specific questions for staff just about the presentation before I open public hearing? And then we will open the public hearing. Is there anyone that has questions or would like to speak for the public hearing?
You guys are done.
Thank you. I know, I'm like, I don't have any, there's one there. So at 6:44, we open the public hearing. Being no one.
Oh, that's the question.
Well, let's close the public hearing. Close the public hearing, then we'll bring it back to the commission.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Yep.
I'm still new.
Okay. Seeing no public here, that wants to participate in the public hearing, we'll close the public hearing at 6:45. And we'll bring it back to the commission. Commissioner Matlock, did you want to speak?
Yeah, I had a question, and this might not be completely germane. There's a bus route that goes along Dutch Avenue, 208. Is that factored into the parking and access to that field? Like, do we contact King County Metro to say we're anticipating more people being here to perhaps modify the bus route?
Yeah, that wasn't factored in the original.
Okay,
Determining the parking quantity.
and do we have a code requirement for bicycle parking for facilities like that?
We do not currently, that's been kind of on my to-do list that I'd love to implement at some point in a code amendment, but currently we don't have that.
All right, those are my 2 questions.
And another question regarding parking, does like federal ADA standards govern how many disabled parking spaces are required in the location and stuff like that?
Yeah.
To do with that.
It's due to better building code requirements, yes.
That's-
Any other commissioners? Yeah, I mean, Mike's just been fun with the parking as well, just being there at games, already the existing parking lot is full. And so to add more courts, probably that will be at the same time as the other games going on, it's gonna be really tight. I don't know, for me, it's not necessarily a reason to stop the development agreement in any way, but it might be something that we wanna look at, you know, putting together some sort of
Or
rule.
encourage site owner to develop some kind of transportation plan to handle large assemblies. To recommend people travel in vans versus coming in single cars.
Yeah, I mean, we can suggest
Yeah.
that, but that's not really something.
That's not something that goes in
Put
van,
in,
in
right,
my opinion.
so I think it's, yeah, for me, it doesn't hold it up, but I think, we as a city might get that and put some language in the code. Good words today, a change in the code. Okay, if there's no other comments, questions, I think we're looking for a motion.
I move to close.
All right, then we can motion to approve. The development, yeah.
I'll second.
Okay, all in favor?
I,
Okay, and we already did item 5, so I think we are ready to adjourn at 6:48 PM.
Fast.